After we know some basic concepts in 11.1 and 11.2, stating that the probabilities of a certain event is the fractions, the numerator is the number of choices in a certain event. That means a certain kinds of events, certain kinds of sample space with restrictions over the number of choices in the sample space. That means the number of choices without any restrictions. So then we can go into the addition law of the probability. Now basically it is very similar to the chapter 10 when we are talking about the counting principles, talking about the NCR and NPR. When we're talking about adding some choices, that means we are talking about all situations. So that means we are talking about two events when they are union to each other, A or B. That means so then we are adding those two probabilities. And sometimes we need to do the minus, similar to the counting principle, is that when we have an overlapping region, for A and B, these two events. So then we need to minus. Now, in the probability, we have equations to summarize these two concepts. Is the following equation. So when we're talking about A or B to be happens, the probability is that we calculate the probability of A and then add the probability of B and minus the overlapping region. That means A and B should happen together. Now, if no overlapping region, meaning that they cannot happen together, then basically is the is when we're talking about A or B probability, so we add the two values together. Okay, so if the situations that A and B is equal to 0, we have a fancy term. Normally we'll talk more about this in M1. We just simply go through this wording: mutually exclusive events. If A and B is equal to 0, that means A and B, these two events are mutually exclusive events. For us, we just need to remember the equations for this red equation. Okay, let me highlight this. Or more importantly, the blue stuff. So knowing how to add or knowing how to do the minus. Now also, we need to know something about how to calculate the probability of the complementary events. So let's say there is an event A, and if we are talking about A not to be happen, then it's actually talking about in the set notation we have an A dash to representing not A situations. Okay, so imagine A is talking about whether today is having what is whether it is a winning. So then actually the probability of not winning is the 1 minus of the probability of winning. Okay, you imagine that if the probability of winning today is very low because it's now in the winter, let's say it's 0.1. So then you actually find out that the probability of not winning is 0.9. Okay, so this is the very important concepts in the probability to help you to solve some difficult probability.